Hey, what's going on, guys? So we've got my starter guide for the Browndust 2 2024 edition right before the first anniversary. A lot of you have probably come from the Mushoku Tensei collab, right, where you get Roxy and Eris their base costumes for free, and then roll for their more risque costumes, the cat and the succubus outfit, which are 10 out of 10 designs, guys. I would definitely recommend rolling for at least a copy, right? And then also too, there is the summer first Annie coming up, which a lot of people have found out about. If you haven't seen, I do have a reaction to it as well as a breakdown in my description. Please check that out. But we will be getting a free copy of Dalvy's summer swimsuit. We will get 6 copies for free, 200 free pulls, and Nebris and Vanica 2 units that are coming from the previous installment of Browndust 2, Browndust 1 or bravenine is coming to the game, so it's pretty exciting. You'll be able to pick those up, and we'll be looking for a lot of stuff in the future that's coming, a roguelike system, and then also 2 guilds, which will be coming soon for this game. So a lot of things to look forward to, but hey, let's get started on the starter guide to get you guys way into this game. Alright, so a quick little guide on team counts and team building. So when you start this game, you're going to start going through the story, right? You want to get through the story as quick as you can because that's how you get a lot of free things. That's how you start to get tickets. And it's going to be interesting, right? Because you're going to start off with Justia as a free character. Also, as you go through the game, you're going to be getting some other characters like Arenas, who's a great starter character. When you're doing your infinite reroll, when you get to a certain point, people always ask you, oh, what's a great character to start with? I'm going to be honest, I wouldn't get too stressed over it because of the fact that you get characters like Justia, Shara, and even Arenas to start with at the beginning of the game as you progress through the story. But if you're looking for some good tips on who can you start with, I mean, someone like Cry is pretty good. A lot of the 3 and 4 star characters are actually pretty solid. Beatrice is I believe a 4-star character that's pretty good. If you can somehow get Same as a buffer, she is pretty good. Um, yeah, I would say even Leatrice, if you somehow manage to get her. Just looking for some solid damage units, but I would say the number 1 person out of all is going to be Justia, Gray, and then Lathel you'll also get, but again, you'll get copies of him for free. Lathel's also a great start. And Cry. Cry's a pretty solid start. Now, as you progress through the game, a lot of people get stuck on certain parts and they want to know more about team building. So I'll put it to you like this very simply. Whoever you get at the very beginning, chapter 1, just push through with the content, slap on the common gear that's given to you, and then take that and get as far as you can. When you get stuck, I need you all to make sure you understand each and every person you're using, their skills and their range. Because if you don't understand their skills and range, it's going to be a little tough for you. I won't go into detail about each and every single person because I'll be here all day talking about it. But you want to understand the skills and how the range of their skills hit, right? That's very, very, very important. Once you understand that, in order to slowly progress more and more and more, you're going to be getting, you're going to go from common gear to rare gear, which I'll get into gear later on in the video, but slap on some rare gear, build it, build the highest tier rare gear on your damage characters. Number 2, make sure you start using support characters like a Sime, right? Characters like Sime are important, right? Because she gives you at +5, which is maxed out, increased attack and increased magic damage. Now, don't worry about the +5 for now. A lot of you are going to start off with +0. That's just giving you the potential of what she could be when she's maxed. But you'll start off with 20% attack and 20% magic damage increase, and she'll also give you heals. So pretty important. Also, too, Arenas is another starter that you'll get as well. And what she'll do is she'll start you out at increased physical damage at 25%, right? And then also increased crit rate at 30% for 6 turns each. And these are pretty important. So utilize buffers. At least one buffer you want to utilize, and then make sure you're correctly doing the formation correct. And what I mean by that is if you're going to have someone like a Same on your team, right? You want to make sure that they actually go first. That way they give the buff to the entire team, and so when other people attack, they have that increased buff, right? And that'll kind of get you through the mid to late game. Now, when you get to, say, the late game, or just bosses that you can't defeat, having double buffers can be important because they're able to stack some of their buffs. For example, if we just talk about Same and Arenas, right? Arenas gives you, I believe it was about 20% attack increase, and then same thing with Same. So that can turn into a 40% attack increase, and that also gets into late game, and late game is important because there's a whole meta of crit rate and crit damage, and supports actually provide the crit rate, and your damage dealers, you build crit damage, but I'll talk about that later in the video. So just to kind of sum this up, at the beginning, get through as much content as you can with the team you got. As you start to get stuck, make sure you understand what each and every character does. Then you start to utilize buffers. These buffers need to go at the start of your team rotation, and you can also stack these buff units if you want. So characters like Same, Arenas, B Helena, even Diana are great buff character units, and that's why a lot of support units are tier 0 at the top, because of the things they allow your damage dealing characters to do, right? But there's also another key piece to this, and that's going to be gear, and I will get into that later in the video. So let's go on to the next one. Okay guys, so now let's get into gear. So as we progress through this game, there's going to be two characters that are going to help you craft gear, and that is Layla and also Fred. Now, Layla and Fred are going to be super important because they have an ability that allows them to craft common gear or neutral gear all the way up to ultra rare gear. So let's take a look. So as you can see, if you go over in info and you look at this, this is click clack click clack. This is gear crafting legendary. So with this, I'm able to craft max legendary rank gear. So when a lot of you start, you're going to be starting at beginner, which crafts in, which I think is neutral grade gear, and you can max this out to legendary. So when you're starting, utilize Layla or Fred, craft neutral gear, and as quickly as possible, I need you guys to try and get through intermediate and make it to advanced. Advanced is where you're able to craft rare gear. Now, rare gear is actually very, very important in this game. It will actually get you through mid-game content and even late-game content. It's super important and will last you for, honestly, quite a good amount of time until you can comfortably build ultra-rare gear. Now, let's go into the different types of gear. Hey, what's going on, guys? So one thing I forgot to mention was Scheherazade. She's actually the alchemist, and with her, you'll be able to create certain materials for rare gear and eventually ultra rare gear. So as you craft rare gear and eventually ultra rare gear, you're going to be using her to build the material to make the gear. So she's going to be somebody that you'll utilize over and over again, and you're going to want to get her also as well up to advanced too, but it'll go hand in hand with each other, so nothing too bad to worry about. All right, back to rare gear. So this is taking a look at the bag. Here is the bag. As you can see, I've got a ton of ultra rare gear. You can see it's displayed as UR. That's ultra rare. Now, you guys are going to start off at the very beginning with common gear, like I mentioned, or neutral gear. Once you get to rare gear, this is where it gets super important. There are different types and tiers of rare gear. It's going to be anything from 1 to 4. So here's a Knight's Glove that is ranked 4. This is the highest tier you can get. As you go on to create rare gear, try the best you can to get as much tier 3 or tier 4 gear that you can. So here's Knight's Glove rank 4. Here's another rank 4. Let's see if I can find. Here's a rank 3. Preferably, like I said, you want rank 4, but rank 3 is also not a bad start. Now, put these on your damage dealers. Make sure you're reading the different effects. If it's a necklace, it'll give you crit rate. If it's a glove, it'll give you attack percentage and crit rate. Right? Read into that, and don't really worry about the substats too much. Just make sure if you have a damage dealing unit, obviously you want a physical attack percentage. If it's a magic damage unit, you want magic damage percentage or flat magic stats. Again, if you're a new player, you're starting this out, just making sure you've got your defense in order, or maybe you need magic resist depending on who you're going against. Having that in order is super, super important when it comes to gear, and also making sure that it's the highest tier, which is tier 4, like I mentioned. Now, this rare gear will take you throughout the game, through mid game, even to late game. So again, take a lot of the stats into consideration, but I wouldn't worry about it too much as a new player until you've gotten into a good spot to where you're completely stuck, and that's when you want to actually focus on certain stats within the gear that you get. So here's a Knight Staff with magic attack percentage and crit damage, right? And then you've got substats of HP, magic attack, and flat HP, right? So this will be very, very important and will get you through a lot of the early game and most of the mid game. When you start to build gear and you get to SR gear, now this is very important because this is the part where you actually will start to get into the meta of the game. It's suggested to completely skip SR gear unless it's there's two exceptions. Skip SR gear unless you get a crit ring, or you actually get the SR version of the character's weapon. Then I'd say it's okay to get an SR piece of gear. And by SR gear, so each character has an exclusive weapon. So here's Elenir's Frets or Freutsch. I don't know how to pronounce that. This is her ultra rare version. She does have an SR version exclusive to her. So I would suggest definitely using that if you get the SR version. Now, back to the crit ring. The only thing you want to build when it comes to SR gear is going to be this crit damage ring, the Hero's Ring. The reason why this is so important is because this starts to get into the meta of the game. If you remember in my previous talk in this video, when it comes to support units, they give crit rate. The reason why crit rate is so important is as you build up and get multiple copies of those support units, they get a higher stat when it comes to their ability to give crit rate. So let's say you have Arenas and a Diana, like I mentioned, right? Combined together, you could get a combined amount of anywhere between, let's say, 50 to 60% crit rate, right? And that's what happens when you combine multiple buffers, right? You combine 2 buff units. When you get to that moment and you're able to do that, and you're able to also unlock the SR ring, that's when you start to build crit damage on your damage units. So as you can see, I have this equipped. This is equipped to some of my damage units. Just the basics on how to build rare gear and SR gear. And like I said, rare gear is going to take you throughout most of the mid game and even late game until you have enough material and enough leveling up to build SR gear, which will definitely take you into the stratosphere of building characters for late game, right? But I'll talk about that towards the end when I go over meta in general. So remember, guys, rare gear is the most important thing, and as you build rare gear, make sure it's at least tier 3 or tier 4. When it comes to SR, when it comes to your SR items, only build the Hero's Ring. And if you get an SR exclusive item, for example, like Sylvia's item here, like Leatrice's Lunar Piercer, then if you want to build those, by all means, go ahead. But completely skip SR gear in general, guys. It's not very helpful until you get to ultra rare gear. All right, let's get on to the next. Okay, guys, let's talk dailies, let's talk events, and let's talk the season pass, right? So when you start to get into the swing of things for browndust 2, you're going to see that there's going to be a season pass that we get, right? You're going to see that every 2 weeks there's going to be an event shop, right? And of course, there's going to be dailies. Now, before all this stuff, we used to really just have to do dailies. Then season passes started to come up, and then we start to have more of a schedule for events every 2 weeks. So now dailies take a little bit longer, but you can honestly complete a lot of these things by just doing the tasks I'm about to show you right now. So let's just pay attention. So first I'm going to show you what it looks like, and then what it's going to look like when you actually complete a lot of these missions here, including weekly missions. So here's what I like to do. And again, you can utilize a lot of your field abilities to get a lot of this stuff done, like search, or even something like overpower from Therese. but I'm just going to show you what it's like to do it manually. So the first thing I do is I collect 3 of these pieces of glitter, right? So when you collect these, now so far from what I'm showing you, I already have 3 collected, but I'm going to just find 3 anyway. So that's 1, 2, and then as you're finding these, you're going to see these little twig glutty. You're going to at least want to have 1 of those, right? So you're going to run for it, grab it, and then that's 3. So first it's going to be collect 3 pieces of glitter and then 1 twig glutty, which is that blue thing, right? Once you've done that, the next thing you're going to want to do is you're going to go to your character screen, and randomly you can do this with any character, or well, not necessarily any character, but with any piece of gear, right? And you're just going to take any piece of gear and refine it. The reason you want to do this is because you will complete a mission, right? Now, if we go over here and we just take any piece of gear and we upgrade it, we also get okay, there we go. Perfect. We also get another point on completing our dailies and event missions, right? So that'll be huge. The next thing you're going to want to do is go to your gear, and you're just going to want to dismantle 1 piece of gear. So I'm going to select gear. I'll select 2. Even though you just need to do 1, so I'll select 1. You dismantle that gear, and then every time you complete something, you'll get a little thing at the top that shows you event mission or that has been complete, right? So I've refined gear, I've upgraded gear, I've dismantled gear, I've collected 3 twig glutties. Excuse me, I've collected 3 glitters and then 1 twig glutty. Now, this is up to you if you want to do these other 2, but I'll show you them real quick. So you're going to want to go against one of the monster spawns here. Completely up to you if you want to do this. You don't have to, but it's another option for daily. So you can overpower them using Teresa's skill and just run over them so you don't have to face them off, right? If you don't have this skill, then obviously you can just walk up to them. Let me see if I can find one. Let's find one over here. Where are they? Okay, found one. So obviously if you don't have that skill, you can just walk up to them and then you can go against them and face them in battle, right? But that's going to be how you get that done. Now, the next thing you're going to want to look at is you're going to want to go to this little map icon here. And you're going to want to do some hunting, right? So you can do whatever you want when it comes to hunting, right? If you do hunting once or in the battlegrounds, it will complete a daily mission and an event. Yeah, but if once you complete that, the hunting, and you can also, instead of the hunting, you could do the same thing by using the hunting to get some coins from the goblin ruins, some slime, and even some, actually no, just these 2, the slime and the hunting ruins. So, but yeah, once you complete that hunting, you can also do the same thing for the goblin ruins, which gives you gold, or even the slime. So one of these 3 will definitely help you in that. So once you got that completed, you'll be able to go to your missions, complete your dailies. You'll even get some weekly points. Now, without me having to talk, a lot of that will take maybe a minute 30, maybe max 2 minutes. And then you could also go to your season pass and you can fill a lot of this stuff out. Now, the last 2 things here is try to draw, which basically you do a free draw every day to complete that. And then there's also Mirror Wars. Now, you don't have to complete the Mirror Wars thing because a lot of you just starting out, you don't know the first thing about Mirror Wars. So I would say as long as you can get all of these done except the last one here, which is Battle in Mirror Wars, I'd say you'd be good to go. But yeah, you just want to come here and then do a free draw. And then that'll complete, and it'll also add a daily mission as well. So even if though I've completed my dailies, I still get something for doing that, right? So that's just another thing that you can do to get your dailies done, right? So I'm going to go over here, I'm going to complete that, and boom, right? So that's going to be for a lot of you new players. Now, when it comes to the event shop, So in the event shop, this is pretty important because it'll give you a lot of free stuff. And this was not available to a lot of people at the beginning of this game. So this event shop is definitely I wouldn't say new, but it's definitely something that's a very good change that's come along. So in the event shop, there's going to be a bunch of items that you want to prioritize. So as a free-to-play new player, I'm going to be honest, a lot of you are probably going to want to draw tickets. So getting tickets from here is going to be something important for you. Collecting these tears of goddess are going to be important because when you get to the point where you want to pay attention to this thing called a potential system, which I will go over, it's going to be important to collect these tier of goddess in the tier system for you to keep. There's also going to be ancient crystals. Ancient crystals are used to craft UR gear. I would say those are pretty important. You get ability pills, red slime, 3-star rank ups, gold, refining crystals. So as a free-to-play player, let's just go over this, right? When you're just starting, go ahead and get your tickets. Go ahead and get Tears of Goddess. And go ahead and get whatever items you may need to collect. But I will tell you this, as long as you do this just about every day, you should be able to complete this whole thing, right? You even get access to ultra rare gear, which depending on the stats will be pretty good for you. So you can purchase ultra rare gear, and then you use the item associated with ultra rare gear to build it up, right? So this is Berserker's Claw. So the Claw of the Fiend Berserk, massive and incredibly sturdy. This is going to be the thing that allows you to upgrade the event shop item gear, which is Beast Clutch, right? And then obviously you have these different types of refillable event currency. So this will allow you to essentially, if you buy all those, let's say you go to challenge mode, there's going to be some different points where you can do a quick battle, right? So if I do a quick battle, I do it 5 times. So I just used up my 5 currency for the day there. And then I'm good to go. I get 1,200 of these broken wooden swords. So when you purchase more of these event items here, or event currency, you will be able to quick battle and collect a certain amount depending on where you're at. So I can get 140, and then it goes up at 80% if you have certain characters associated with the event, right? So that's going to be pretty important when it comes to gathering items in your event shop. So for me, as you can see, these are kind of grayed out. You can see what I prioritize: draw tickets, Tier of Goddess, ancient crystals. But yeah, you can very well clear out this shop as much as you can if you try and do it just about every day. Very simple stuff, guys. So I'll just go ahead and let's say I want these refining crystals. I'll take that, purchase complete, and we're good to go. And again, you can do normal battles, and you can do this every day until you run out of currency. Keep doing it every day. Do challenge battles. Try and get as far as you can. You can even do Fiend Hunt. Fiend Hunt will actually give you, if you can pass certain levels, will give you certain rewards. You'll be able to get tickets for every Fiend Hunt, and if you challenge it once, you get 1,600 of the currency for your event, right? So that's going to be super important in just getting extra stuff that you need, right, as a free-to-play and new player. So yeah, guys, that is about it. So for daily, season pass, and even event items, all in all, if you're just doing dailies, I'd say it takes about 2 minutes, to be honest. And then if you're also trying to do some of the event items, at the beginning, it's going to take a little bit because you obviously have to go through the challenge or normal battles. But once you complete it, you just have to do quick battle, and then that'll take maybe another 15 to 30 seconds, depending on what you're trying to do, if you're trying to buy stuff or not. So all in all, I will say dailies, including the season pass and the event shop, especially when you're able to complete a lot of the events, I think in total, dailies and what you need to do in general will take about 3 minutes, maybe max 5, depending on what you're trying to do. So yeah, guys, that will be dailies. On to the next one. Alright, guys, so next we're going to talk about hunting. Now, hunting is going to be something that's also pretty important for new players. So this is going to be where you're going to collect a lot of the materials you need to make your gear. Now, like I've talked about, Scheherazade, she's somebody that will allow you to craft different materials, and these materials will be used to make gear. And over time, you'll start to collect a ton of material. As you can see, I've got over 600k of this plain leather. and I only really use it when I need to craft UR gear. So what'll happen is I just take this top quality leather, which is used for this type of gear, and I just create it just like that, right? So pretty simple. Now, how to get some of this stuff. So you'll start off very simple. You'll be going through the first couple story packs. So just try and do that first. Don't really worry about this. Once you get through the first like 3-4 story packs, when you go to this map icon here, you'll see a lot of the different places where you can auto hunt. I would say some of the best places is Lizardman Altar, Mountain's Keeper, and you know, it really doesn't matter essentially. It just depends on what you're looking for. I will say if you're trying to craft rare gear, I mean, you just really need a lot of the basic stuff. I would say even the sewage septic tank is a great place. Now, when you get to mid to late game, you'll start to see what type of gear what type of material you'll need the most. So I'll just tell you right off bat, copper ore, the iron ore, and the golden ore are going to be some of the materials you'll need throughout the game. Mostly golden ore once you get to late game, but obviously you'll be crafting rare gear for a while, so iron and silver ore will be good. Also, wood is also going to be something you're going to want to keep an eye on as well. So as you progress through different chapters, these grounds will basically unlock, right? So how do you unlock them, right? Now, there's going to be a button here. This is the auto hunting button. Depending on what chapter you're on, the later chapters, they don't really have any auto hunt places because they're you pretty much have everything you need after, like, I think chapter 8 or 9. But if you click this button, it will take you to the hunting grounds, right? So we're just going to follow Justy and the gang, and they're going to take the teleporter and take us directly to where the hunting grounds are. Okay. And looks like we made it, so I'm going to run away here, and I'm going to stop this auto hunt. Essentially what this auto hunt does is you can let this run, and it'll face all the enemies for you. If you've got a good enough team, you don't have to worry about trying to make a team formation, but a lot of you are going to have to focus on being able to defeat all these enemies until you get to the last enemy, which will be towards the end right here. Once you defeat like 5 of these guys, the last boss will pop up right here. Once you're able to defeat this boss, you will essentially have unlocked auto hunting. So you're just gonna like exit out, right? And when you unlock that auto hunting feature, you'll be able to go to whatever auto hunt area that you unlocked, and you'll essentially be able to unlock it. So as you can see, I've unlocked hard mode, and the way I unlocked hard mode was I did the same story pack on hard. Once you beat hard story pack, you can go to the auto hunt and make sure you defeat it on hard mode, essentially. And once you defeat it on hard mode, you can automatically do things from here using your rice, and you can just collect all the material that you need, right? So pretty simple stuff, guys. And once you do that, you're able to then not worrying about having to farm stuff manually, and you can just farm things automatically. And that'll make life easier because that will help you get the material that you need to create gear. And once that's set, then farming for certain types of material will be a lot easier, and then you'll be able to craft your rare gear a lot simpler, right? So pretty simple steps to getting things done. Yeah, so let's move on to the next topic. Alright guys, so now we're going to talk about the potential system. So this is something pretty interesting. I don't think you'll have to necessarily worry about the potential system until a little bit later on into the gameplay, maybe mid to late game. And what I mean by that is typically when you're on like chapter 8, 9, I think this will maybe come into play. Even then, I don't think it really matters too much. We got the potential system like, gosh, maybe 4 months ago, max, I believe. So let's talk a bit about it here. So you'll see over here, there's this hand, and then you'll see the character. If you click on the character, as you can see, I've got all 4 Cher's costumes. This is the bonding stat. So the potential system, well, let's read it. This stat applies only when the costume is bound. When bonding with the skill selected costume, the binding stats will be applied to the character. So when you start to upgrade your character in the potential system, you'll get extra stats. So as you can see, 0, 0, 0. Over here, I've got flat stats of 44 and HP of 77. Let's take a look. So if we actually go to the pool party costume, the one that had the extra stats, we could see that we've got some stuff filled in here. So it's basically one big skill tree. And with this skill tree, you use different types of crystals depending on the element to upgrade things. And you use tier, and this is something we talked about the event shop. You can use tier to upgrade the stats to, or essentially upgrade your ability to give you some extra stats, right? So this is very handy. And the reason being is because some of the things in the potential system will actually help out a lot when it comes to your character. So let's say, for instance, let's take Leatrice. If we go to May Leatrice and we look at her potential system, I've got it completely filled out. Now let's take a look at some of the abilities that require Tier of Goddess. We've got SP consumption reduced by 1. Now, this is probably one of the biggest reasons to do a potential system, because this skill used to cost 4 SP. Now it costs only 3. And that's huge when you're trying to create a team and you only have a certain amount of SP to work with, right? And SP is skill points, right? So, another thing, cooldown is reduced by 2 turns. Great. And the last thing, skill range. So, automatically, I'd say when you get to this point, you're kind of going to understand the game a little bit more. Again, I wouldn't say don't worry about this too much. Go ahead and collect Tier of Goddesses in the event shop like I mentioned. But I don't really think you have to worry about it too much. Unless you really got a character that's built out like Leatrice, then go ahead and go for it. But if you do want to do it anyway, keep in mind the main things you want to look for is the SP consumption reduced and skill range increased, right? And I'll leave a video in the description where I go over some of the units and their potential skills. If you want to click on it, by all means, go for it. I go into detail, but the main thing I want you guys to take away here is if you're going to do the potential system, make sure it's worth it. So if it reduces your SP and it increases range, go for it. Otherwise, if it increases damage by like 15-20%, I wouldn't say it's that worth it. If it's something big like 50% damage increase, then I would say go for it. Other than that, I would use your resources elsewhere. Now, speaking of resources, how the heck do we get these crystals and how do we get Tier of Goddess? Real quick, let's go over where we can get Tier of Goddess from. If we go to our event shop, right, currently we've got the collab going, we can buy Tier of Goddess from the event shop, right? So I've already bought mine. I've bought 3. That's where you can get it. So I already explained how to get a lot of that stuff. Now, there is another place where you can get the tier. If you go to the shop, let's take a look here. And we go to, I believe it is, yep. You can also get this from the golden thread shop. Now, I wouldn't suggest using your golden threads here because there's a lot of things that you can buy, especially a costume select enhancement for 1600 threads. And this will basically, say you want to choose, or say I want to choose Zenith, I can get her to +5 if I give up 1600 of my golden threads. Now, again, you utilize the event shop. I really wouldn't go here unless you've got the extra cash like me for golden threads to really spend. Otherwise, I would just save this for costume enhancements, ancient crystals, and draw tickets. And yeah, that's where you'll get all the things you need for Tier of Goddess. Now, let's talk about how we get these crystals. Now, Path of Adventure is going to be the place where you're able to get these crystals. So I really want to preface this because I didn't really talk about it in my other ones. But Path of Adventure, if you do this, let's go to talk, or excuse me, not talk. Hang on, guys, let me skip that. If you click Path, there's a bunch of different things you can do here. You can get your gold here. You can get slime here, and slime allows you to level up your characters. And like I said, you can get your crystals here. So real quick, because I didn't mention this at all, slime and gold, in order to get the biggest amount of gold and the biggest amount of slime, you have to beat each of these on, you essentially have to do the same thing you have to do with hunting. So what happens is, in order to get very hard, or hard and very hard, you have to beat this whole thing on normal. So all these different monster spawns, you have to beat all of them, and then at the end here, the boss will appear, and you have to defeat that boss. Once you defeat that boss, you'll be able to go to the next level, which is hard, but you'll be able to auto farm normal for gold. And then once you beat hard, you can auto farm hard. Once you beat very hard, you can auto farm very hard, right? So keep that in mind when you're trying to upgrade the amount of gold that you can farm automatically, as well as the amount of slimes you can farm automatically, right? So I'm going to quickly exit out of here. And this rule essentially applies everywhere else when it comes to the Path of the Adventurer. So let's go back. Okay. So if we take a look, I've got Cave of Fire on very hard, Cave of Water very hard. I've got Cave of Wind on very hard as well. I've got Cave of Light on very hard, Cave of Darkness on very hard, right? So this is super important. Make sure whatever you're trying to get, you're gonna have to defeat a certain amount. If you want to get the normal amount, then what'll happen is you'll get slightly less when you use your torches to farm this area, right? So again, if you want to get the most bang for your buck, you have to beat it on very hard. But for a lot of you new players, that's going to be tough. So if you can only beat normal, then just beat normal. And then you'll use these torches that will allow you to farm it. So I'll show you what that looks like. Click that map. On the bottom left here, you click this map. You scroll down to the crystals. I've got fire, water, wind, light, whatever. I'm going to farm wind. I'm going to use 60 of my torches. Now I just got the maximum amount of 275. Simple as that. And again, you have to beat the mode in order to get the very hard mode amount for getting the wind crystals, and this applies for everywhere else, right? So just keep that in mind. Now, for those of you that wonder, hey, if you want to spend money to get these torches, if you click go to the shop, you can use your diamonds that you have to get a whole host of these. But again, if you're a new player, I wouldn't really worry about this at all. Okay, so that is a one-on-one on the potential system, and now on to the next. Okay, guys, the very last thing we're going to talk about is meta and why meta is so important and what is it. So, in this game, supports are the tier 0 characters. They're the most important characters. I talked about this earlier. They provide crit rate buffs. The reason why in late game using double supports is so good is because it gives you a bigger chance to crit rate, so you can do crit damage. So when you start to get to late game, you're going to start building your damage dealers with a ton of crit damage, right? So let's talk on this real quick. Firstly, let's talk about the gear. So as you're building up your rare gear, again, nothing wrong with basically slapping on random rare gear and then just upgrading it. Like I said, you want to make sure it's a tier 3 or tier 4, obviously, so you get the best stats. And depending on what it is, like let's take this Knight Sword. This is tier 4. Obviously, you're going to have attack percentage or flat attack. Both are fine. Don't really worry about it too much, especially because it's rare gear. Just focus on refining it. And whatever substats you get, I wouldn't really worry about it too much. Now, if you're more in the late game, which is like past chapter 9 or on chapter 9, and you still have rare gear for some characters, like I said, I still use rare gear on a lot of my characters. Then go ahead and you can try and change some of the substats, but I would highly suggest essentially just going with what you got. But again, it's not that big of a deal. You're not going to use the most the stones that you use to refine rare gear is different from the stones that you use to refine ultra rare gear. So that's one thing you can keep in mind. So if you want to do this right here, it doesn't cost too much, but you can keep doing it until you get something that you like. And if you like it, let's say you want attack, but like I said, we're looking for crit damage, right? So that's crit damage, so you confirm it. If you don't want to confirm it, you can choose to keep the option there of what you had before, but we're going to confirm this. And boom, just like that, you can upgrade your stats. So that's completely fine if you want to do that for rare gear. But again, don't be too stressed to try and roll for this early on, because it's not really going to matter as much until you get to like mid to late game. So by all means, go ahead and try and get that. Now, like I said, crit damage is huge in this game. Crit damage caps off at 700%. Currently, I have my Sylvia at 530%. Now, anywhere between 400 and 700 is pretty good. I'm going to be honest, it's very hard to Well, I won't say very hard, but it's kind of difficult to roll this high just because you're trying to make sure that your substats have a line of crit damage in each piece of gear. And again, this is mostly for your damage dealers. And let me show you how much it costs. So it costs for your refining crystals. It costs it costs 45. Now, this may not seem like a lot, but refining crystals are pretty hard to come by. So it's going to be something that you'll have to use sparingly. So that's why I say you want to focus a lot of your time on your damage dealers. And again, when it comes to defensive characters, by all means, you can focus on them. But typically, make sure it's a really good one, right? Because I see a lot of people will focus on their damage dealers their defense characters for like PvP, which again, PvP is a whole nother thing. But, you know, they focused your defensive characters for PvP, or maybe for a certain boss, whatever it is, right? But for this game, and for your sake to get through content, focus on your damage dealers and build crit damage, right? When you start to unlock UR gear, that's what you want to focus on. So once you're starting to build a full set of UR gear, right, you're going to focus on different things, right? Venomous Touch will provide crit damage, which you'll need for just about all your damage dealers. So that Sylvia is a physical damage unit. My Dalvi is a magical damage unit, and I have Venomous Touch for both. This is a Venomous Touch 3, just because rolling for a tier 4 of UR gear is very hard. But building crit damage is huge, huge, huge. And as you can see, I've got her at 412. I've got a couple lines of crit damage and some of her gear here. You can see right here for her Travel God's Friend tier 3, I've got crit damage at the bottom. So in order to get more crit damage, I have to also take these substats and roll for crit damage. But that's essentially why crit damage is so big in this game, because the supports will allow you to do big, big crit damage. So I'm going to show you an example of this here. Let's go into one of the modes under Evil Castle. And we're going to go to... should we do Tower of Desire? Yeah, let's do Tower of Desire. So element can play a role, but again, this really all depends on what you're trying to do. So I'm going to... So this is 4, so let's take... Be Helena. Now, I wanna let you guys know that some characters will give physical buffs, some characters will give magical buffs. It's okay if you mix and match those buffers with the opposite damage type, because either way, you still get the crit rate. So that's what's most important for this, right? You still get that crit rate. Okay, so right now I'm going to... what should I do here? Let's replace her with Lewin. I'm going to use the damage dealers I got here to provide basically the biggest attack. So again, we're going to start off by organizing our damage. Diana, you have to put everybody on her tiles in order to get the effect. And then Helena, it's everybody on the field. So this is going to be a combination of 80% crit rate. So I'm going to use this here. And then my Lewin is going to hit the back. Perfect. And then Dalvi is going to go... Actually, I'll start off with Lewin just to show you guys the damage I'm able to do here. And then I'll have everybody else clean up. Okay. Let's do it, guys. Let's see what we get. Start off with our buff. Our first one coming from Diana. And then the next one from Helena. And here comes the damage from Lewin. Let's see what happens. Huge. So I just cleared that entire field pretty much. Right? And you saw the numbers, pretty big numbers. Okay, and we're going to finish this last guy here. Nice. Alright, so let's take a look at the numbers. Lewin completely took out the back line there. So she did over 600k damage, right? So she completely wiped all of the health from all those monsters, and we were able to complete that all in one go. And because of that, we got all the rewards. We won the battle, everyone survived, and we won it within 8 turns. And as you can see, it literally took one turn to beat everything. So that's an example of what some of the damage will look like when you build crit damage. Pretty crazy stuff, guys. And again, I don't think this meta is really changing. If it does change some way, somehow, I'll put a note in the video to let you guys know that, hey, this is old information. Please disregard this section. But yeah, once you get to the late game, you start building UR gear for your damage dealers. Focusing on crit damage will be a huge help for you guys. But yeah, that's it for that. Okay, guys, so I appreciate you sticking through the entire video. One last thing I want to kind of go over was something I thought would be fun. When it comes to getting characters, you're going to go through different cutscenes that you'll be able to get. I have had some questions of like, hey, you know, JetXC, what's the best cutscenes that you can get to put on your home screen? And the best ones I've kind of collected here. Let me see. Let me take out Dalby. Dalby actually isn't the best. Dalby, and then let me take out Eris, even though Eris is pretty good. Let's take Eris out, and then we're gonna put Bunny Girl, Celia. Let's see what else. So there's a ton in here that are really good, but I would say, oof, this is really tough. Really tough. Oh no, it's already in there. Okay, never mind. Let me back Bunny Girl Eclipse. Okay, I would say this is probably going to be what I would be rocking as some of the best cutscenes that you'll be able to look at on the home screen. So essentially, one more thing, you're going to want to put it on fixed, and the reason you want to put it on fixed is after it plays through, it will pause it at certain moments. So if we go here, we skip this, you're able to see your favorite cutscene basically paused, and it kind of loops through the same thing, but you get to see all the goods here. So this is for Eclipse. If we go to the next, here is Bunny Leatrice, right? Pretty solid skin or costume, right? And then if we go to the next one, we got Leatrice. You can't see, if you're on your mobile phone, you can probably see better, but there's a lot going on down there. We've got Grandhilder, well, that looks great. We've got Sylvia, who looks amazing in this. We've got Therese, for obvious reasons. That's why she's on the front. We've got a new one, codename Elise. They finally made this one for her. This one's a pretty good one. I'll give it to it. And yeah, guys, that's just some of mine. So collect whatever characters you like and then put them on the main screen. But yeah, guys, that's going to be my guide. I hope you enjoyed it. Any questions you have, please let me know. I'll be looking at the comments section. I'll answer whatever you need to know. But thank you guys for watching, and I'm out. Later.